Kingdom podcast. We are your hosts,
Jessica saying.
and I am Chris Eaton. Oh, what a world we live in, Jessica. What a world we live in. We are now a T-minus 1 week and a day since the release of Godzilla upon the, actually the suspecting world, if you look at the box office. Turns out a lot of people wanted Godzilla in their lives.
Yes, I was actually going to say, it's not out in all the countries, is it?
No, China is not open yet, and it's not open in Japan. It does not open in Japan until July, I believe.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You would think the first two countries would be America and Japan.
Nope, no. I think they've learned that you got to ride a wave of release. You can't do it all at the same time. Also, not to mention that China kind of bootlegs a lot of our films, so I think they're kind of waiting till the last minute for that one.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah, seeing if you ever stroll through like torrent sites, you'll see like a lot of them come from China.
There is, or if you go to like a Chinese DVD rental blockbuster, like it's all bootleg.
It is. It's
all bootleg. I speak from experience, people. So yeah.
I know. I live in the greater LA area, so if you see those guys selling them on the corners, if they're not cameras, they're usually like really decent bootlegs ripped off from China and possibly Russia. It's a little bootlegging 101 for you.
It is, especially around Chinese New Year. You're going through the booths. I don't know if you have a Chinese New Year festival out there, but we have one here in the various Los Angeles cities and sub-cities, and you'll go through and you'll be like, oh, you've got all these great DVDs, and I'm like, a bootleg of Hobbit, it just came out a month ago.
Exactly.
But it's already there in full form, and it's a color-printed DVD jacket. So I was like, oh my goodness.
Well, it's like my buddy. He's from the Philippines, and back in high school, he went to go visit his brother over there. He was gone for a week. When he came back, he's like, "Hey, I got you guys presents," and he whips out a copy of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, and he went in January. This is January, and the movie came out in December. I'm like, "Where'd you get this from?" He's like, "Oh, they sold it at the liquor store around the corner where my brother lives." I'm like, "What? Like, how much was it?" He's like, "It was $10. I bought like 5 of them." I'm like, you got through customs with these? He's like, oh, they didn't even check, dude. So I pop it in, and it's an Academy screener that had gone out over there because it says property. It says property of New Line in tiny little letters underneath it. It was a perfectly clean copy. I threw it on in art class at school. Everyone was just like, "How'd you get this?" I'm like, "Ancient Chinese secret." But yeah, no, it provides. Moral questionability whether or not you want to trudge out $20-something for 2 people to see a movie, or roll the dice on either downloading it or giving $10 to a dude on the street.
That's true. That is true. And now you can torrent it too or stream it backwards. The movie's flipped, mirrored.
Yeah, it's all about how you want to watch it. Which brings us to this episode today. Obviously, is going to be the review of the film. I don't know how we're. You know what? We'll do this. So, Jessica, me being the gentleman that I am, I'm going to allow ladies first. But I want to give a little leeway that I've seen it twice, and before I get into it, I want to say that in terms of viewing experience, it made a world of difference of how you see this film. I'm just going to put it out there right away for those who may have not liked the movie, or those who may have liked the movie. So that I'll get into on my part, but I will start with you first, because I think a lot of people are really curious to hear what you think more than my, yapping mouth.
No, I was going to say, there was a huge difference. The podcast before, you were so excited. You were like, T-minus 3 days. Like, I would see it on my Facebook status. One time you were like, 16 hours.
Yeah.
And then you uploaded a picture of the ticket that you were holding.
Oh, yeah.
And then right now, you sounded torn. You sounded like you're excited, but yet in distress. It
is interesting. I think I felt a lot of like hardcore fans, because for most of the people that I talk to who aren't hardcore fans, they love this movie. Like, they're like, oh my god, this was awesome. Most hardcore fans I talked to were just like, yeah, yeah, it was alright. Could have been better, Okay, all right, we'll go with that. I think it's a lot of like what hardcore Transformers fans, whenever they see the Michael Bay movies, and the general public just eating them with a big spoon of sugar, and they're all like, "This isn't Transformers, damn it!" I did not have that same reaction, but I will say that maybe I let the hype overtake me just a little bit too much.
Oh, but it was good to be excited for something that we had looked forward to,
It
especially
was.
after the 8.
It was, and especially the fact that it has provided so many good things afterwards, and I will get into that in a little bit. But in the meantime, Jessica, why don't you give the lovely listeners your opinion first, and then I'll chime in after that.
Well, the thing is, and this is going to be a very spoiler podcast, so for
Yes.
those who, want to wait until the crowds die down to watch it, and I don't blame you because, why do you want to sit in a room crowded full of people? Then you may not want to listen to this episode. However, for those who've already seen it, which I'm guessing is the majority of us, so I'm just going to continue going. It was not what I expected from what I saw in the trailers. I actually expected when a movie is named after a character, there might be more of that character. But so I expected actually more Godzilla fighting or Godzilla action between him and the Mutos. And so I kind of expected more for that, and that is pretty much my main hopes and wants that I didn't really get. Now, with that being said, I don't know how much of it is Max Bornstein, the writer, having to cater to people above him, following a certain rule and guideline, or how much was actually him going, yes, I feel the need to cut away at every scene. When every scene we're about to see Godzilla do something, it kind of cuts away to one of the human interest perspectives. So we're not there for the actual making of the film. So we can't be like, oh, the writer doesn't know what he's doing or the director. We don't know. There's always people above them and below them. And we also don't know how much was left in the cutting room floor that we might see as a DVD extra or special featurette. But as the film itself, I kind of would like more fighting. I kind of felt in many ways it was very reminiscent to The Dark Knight Rises, where it's named after a major character, but you only saw them for so long, a very insignificant portion of the film. However, when they do show up, it's awesome.
Yeah.
However, it's not in most of it. I almost felt like, for those who watch Community out there, there is an episode where it's pretty much story A. You see Jeff Winger, you see Annie doing whatever, and then you realize that Abed isn't really in the story. And then you find out, like, Shirley asks Abed, like, oh, how was your day or whatever? He was like, good. And you actually see that the entire time, and someone put this up on YouTube, he was helping a young couple because the lady was about to give birth. So as you're rewatching all the scenes of Community, you see all, Jeff Winger's in the foreground and everything. But in the background, Abed's helping a girl give birth. And so I kind of feel like the foreground is Ford, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and the background is Godzilla doing some kick-ass stuff. The background is them, and I'm kind of like, oh, I wish it was kind of the opposite. But I understand that right now, whether it's right or wrong, Hollywood's very big on human interest pieces. Like you have Transformers, you have, I don't know how Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle will do. I mean, will it mostly follow the people, the humans? I don't know, possibly. But that's kind of what we're seeing. And so I don't know how much of it is a trend or, whether that was not on purpose. But I kind of felt like it was Ford and his buddy Godzilla. Especially the part where he falls from exhaustion, which I understand because he's been going through so much on the boat as he's kind of sailing away. And then Godzilla also falls from exhaustion for finding the Mutos on land. I know that they can't see each other, but from the way it's cutting back and forth, it looks almost like they're looking longly at each other. Like they're both falling at the same time. And for some reason, the commercial for My Buddy, the toy, was playing in my head when I was watching it. Because like whatever you do, your buddy does too. And so I was kind of like, what is happening right now?
There are so many
I
kids
was
born in 1992 that have no idea what that reference is right now.
And of course, for the girls, it's like My Size Barbie or like
Mm-hmm.
My Little or something. I didn't have that one, but I kind of felt like that was what was happening, because they're both falling at exhaustion at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
However, I guess I would start with all the points I preferred that were slightly stronger. There's a lot of human interest, and we were led to believe in the trailer that Ken Watanabe and Bryan Cranston were going to be major characters or major players.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that my friends were shocked when, Walter White went out,
Mm-hmm.
kind of 45 minutes into the film. And he was a really great character. Ken Watanabe's character, many people felt, including me, that he was there because it made sense to have a Japanese man in a Toho-inspired movie.
Mm-hmm.
However, he pretty much had the same facial expression in a lot of the scenes. And he's a great actor.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was purposely trying to, not act and get a Razzie Award or anything. He just, how he was directed or what they told him to do, he did the best that he could with the lines.
Mm-hmm.
He did a lot of taking on and off his glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, is it David Caruso?
There's a lot of just
and
deal with it.
Yes, I can almost hear the soundtrack.
Mm.
He just takes off his glasses, and he does a lot what I like to call the 11th Doctor movement, where he'll turn slowly to the right or to the left, and then he would just look kind of into the distance like he's really concentrated and then walk toward the screen. So it's like he's in a pensive moment, but it's like it doesn't really add to anything, and throughout the film they really only say Godzilla or Gojira 3 or 4 times at the most. They didn't really, they said Ford's name more than they said the actual creature's name, which I'm kind of like, I know you don't want to oversaturate it by saying Gojira or Godzilla, but there should be more mention of the name, and so I personally understood that a lot of purists, as we would like to call them, preferred that Godzilla didn't start out as a good guy, quote, guy, that he started out as a bad guy. However, people want to root for the good guy.
Yeah.
And so I understand that now at this time and age, it's not really something that it's not really a type of idea or concept that we kind of embrace now as easily. So I understand some purists were kind of unhappy. They were like, it's a mistake to make him a good guy in the first film. Because come Godzilla 2 and 3, no wonder he's the greatest superhero. They even says in the film, like, King of the Monsters, like, savior of mankind or something like that.
Yeah, it felt very apt but very corny at the same time.
Yes, it was a friend had put in that it's very 70s.
Yeah, it was it was
he's
super
like,
70s.
He goes, I half expected, he and I were talking, we half expected the Ford's family to be standing on top of a building and waving goodbye Godzilla while he lumbers back into the ocean. And, I preferred it if he started out as more of an ambiguous, like, is he good, is he bad, is he anti-hero, than straight up hero. My friends were shocked how courteous he was when he went under a boat.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a little seemingly uncharacteristic, but it did give an idea that there's something more to play than like a weird animalistic instinct up in his head.
Yes. No, I understand that. I kind of felt like, I believe that because Max had said multiple times, and I believe him, that he's rewatched all 28 films, possibly more than one. But when you have so many variations or incarnations of Godzilla's character, he has to somehow amalgamate it into one, or pick what he feels is best, or perhaps adapt from a story, what he feels is best for what fits to us now. And a lot of my friends actually didn't mind the explanation that he was something from a more primitive world, along with Muto, and that he was an apex predator, and things were much larger then.
Yeah, that actually, I think a lot of people actually really dug that kind of, the explanation for him, that he wasn't just a dinosaur mutated, like it was literally like, there's a whole species of these things out there, along with a bunch of other stuff, which was really cool because then that gives the explanation for further, kaijus later on. Like, if you're not doing a space monster or you're doing a genetic aberration, and it's just another monster from Godzilla's times, like, okay, that makes sense. Dug out of the ground, came from the same time Godzilla did, that's why he's got to go fight him.
Yeah, and I understand that from a certain standpoint, because also back then our climate was different. So, there's radiation, more ammonia, there's more this, there's more that, there was more, there's so many more minerals and elements and chemicals at the time.
And I believe, I'm sorry. Sorry. An episode of Cosmos actually just talked about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Neil Tyson deGrasse walking around with, like, super centipedes and stuff. As he put it, it's like, the Earth was super rich with oxygen, so you had bugs the size of minivans running around. Which, on a side note, is it just me or does Neil Tyson deGrasse feel like the Lando Calrissian of the science community?
Yes, he very much is. I was actually just thinking the same thing.
Like, I just expect him to be, just going up to women, being very suave, and just literally dropping science on people.
Yes.
In fact, you know what?
Yes.
We need to get him and Bill Nye the Science Guy together and have them star in a as a Lando and a Han Solo type characters in various adventures where they just use science to beat the crap out of people.
That is a brilliant idea. You guys heard it first. This idea is patented and copyrighted and trademarked by all rights reserved by Chris Eaton. Because verbal confirmation is it's the best type of confirmation. But yeah, no, I mean, I understood that, but, that type of explanation of where Godzilla came from, because a lot of my friends was like, no, I could buy that, like dinosaurs were bigger then, and they're constantly finding larger and larger fossils. However, I understand that a lot of people enjoy the original explanation, that he was something, where it was testing and human involvement, and it was kind of a result of intervention by people, that we created something like a monster. You know what I mean? Like that we were involved in the reason why we kind of have Godzilla and stuff, but some people didn't like that. They don't like the concept, the idea. They prefer something much more simple, which was, primitive. Because there was less of a political warfare explanation for it.
Yeah, I saw people take a bit of umbrage with that, if you will, to the fact that it's like they took away a lot of the atomic metaphor.
Yes.
Which which I argued, look, the first movie was very high up on that, and in other movies, they kind of re-examine the themes, mostly Biollante. But for the most part, after the second one, it turned into, a romper room of giant monsters beating the crap out of each other. So I think we need to kind of get off the high horse of the fact that, yes, he was a nuclear allegory. It feels like the community is almost using that as a security blanket to try to explain to non-fans of, like, how serious Godzilla is.
Right.
And look, I'm not trying to kind of rag on it. Look, the first film is brilliant. It's a great thing. But you're going to look at King Kong versus Godzilla. You're going to look at Godzilla versus the sea monster in the same light as the original one. As it's a great atomic metaphor. When literally there are points in Sea Monster where he's, like, literally napping and hanging out with an island girl. And yes, I know it was supposed to be King Kong, but Toho just said screw it, and it's like we're just throwing Godzilla doing the same mannerisms. So clearly they didn't care after that point. They cared about the one almighty god, the mighty yen or dollar, whichever country you're in.
Right. No, I get what you mean. But there was so much with the film that I was thinking as I was watching it. And I understand, like, people said Aaron Taylor Johnson was a very bland character. I mean, in a way, yes, but we're mostly using just kind of his point of view to kind of follow the story. I don't necessarily feel that Elizabeth Olsen and the son's character was really needed, but it's a human interest to tug at the fact that this soldier had a family and he's trying to find his way back to his family.
Yeah.
No, he's not a soldier that's just going. I mean, either way, I think it would have worked. No, but I mean, I can't wait for all the memes when Avengers 2 come out. However, because that's all I was thinking. However, you know, there's a lot to it. You know, if you shut down the city, why are kids on the bus going through a bridge? I mean, I don't know, but those are all kinds of smaller things. There was actually a lot of things that I did enjoy, but much like my feeling toward the Nolan Batman films, it's always moments that I really enjoy. And, you know, and the moments I enjoy is, obviously, this is one of the few moments I think Max really did his research well with the military. They are, obviously, I had one friend who's a tank commander and was like, first of all the tanks that were on the bridge driving with the hatch open or something like that, they would have all been fired or let go. But I think that was an oversight. However, the military was trying to make wise decisions.
Yeah.
And they weren't trying to. You always have the movies that are like, what's 100,000 people to save 2 million or something.
Yeah.
However, the person in command was like, no, we don't want to harm the citizens. We want to draw them away, draw Godzilla and Mutos away, you know, and try to make it so we have the least damage and we can try to take out all of them at once or whatever their plan, their line of thinking was, you know. And I liked that because they were trying to help people. And among the band of brothers, there wasn't one dude who was thinking he's the big gun, who's like, no, well, what do you know? Just because your dad, you know, worked in Japan. There was none of that. They were all, I mean, there was that one soldier that was scared of whatever was happening, but they didn't really seem to have any real conflict, you know, and I really liked that. And the fact is that they let him on because he was the only one, I think, that was able to work with bombing devices.
Yeah, he was.
You know, detonating devices. They, you know, there was some tiff a little back and forth, but they let him on. They didn't try to do kind of like a macho comparison of who was better than us. There was no like pulling complex among the men. Yeah. And even when they tried to get it across the bridge, they split up into teams. They were trying to help each other. There was no like, no, I can disarm it better than you can. He's like, no, this is analog. I know what I'm doing. And then they were like, all right, we'll let you do it. There is no fighting among, you know, no fighting among the group, which I really like, because there's no need for extra drama. I know people like that stuff, but there was no need for that. You know, and they tried, you know, to make things, they were trying to make, the military actually had a really great plan. You know, however, I know Ken Watanabe's plan of let them fight is more awesome in a Rock'em Sock'em Robot type of way. However, you know, the risk is, how do they know Godzilla's going to win? Yeah. None of us were alive back in the Stone Age.
Exactly.
So, but it would have been fun to see them fight more. I actually really felt bad for the Mutos. You know, when they were handing off the radiation to each other, I'm like, they just want to be alone and have babies. They're so cute. They're in love. Leave them alone. I was like so sad. I was like, "Aw," during the film, and my friends turned around and they were like, "No, they're the enemy, Chuck. The enemy." And then I was like, I can't help it. I rooted for the Kaiju during the Pacific Rim movie. You know, but it was really great, especially the fights. I felt like Godzilla doesn't exhaust that easily, but he seemed to. Maybe he's been in the water too long. I don't know what's happening. Perhaps he was snoozing. I did like, obviously, it was 2 versus 1, you know, so I mean, I could see how he seemed, there were moments where he seemed like he was outmatched, and then moments where he was pulling a moment from Miracle with Kurt Russell, where all of a sudden he's making a comeback.
Yeah.
However, you know, I mean, there's 2 of them, you know, one's bigger than the other, one flies, you know. I love the favorite parts are obviously the tail splitting, the in half, and of course the building falls on top of him. And then when I was pretty sure they were gonna just open up the jaw of the Mutos, much like I would do to my dog when he accidentally eats a chicken bone, and just pry its jaws open. But then the atomic breath came. The moment I saw his body start to glow, I freaked out. Nobody around me knew what was happening. None of my friends knew what was happening. And when the atomic breath came out, they were like, "Oh my God, this is what we've waited 2 hours for." They absolutely know. That was great. That was amazing. I know some people don't like his character design. Personally, I like it. I think he looks like a vinyl teddy bear, like something that's real cute, you know, like a Pop Funko figure, those big ones that are 9 inches tall.
Yeah.
You want to hug it because it's cute, but it's kind of hard because it's made out of a solid material. Godzilla, the way he moved, the way he walked, he looked very like a teddy bear, a tired teddy bear. When he went back into the ocean, I was thinking of the memes of Sad Keanu, or also of Ben Affleck next to the Batmobile.
Oh, the sad Batman memes.
Yeah, where he just kind of lumbers back into the ocean like it ain't no thing.
Yeah.
But he was just like, whoop, here it goes. I can only imagine like Mystery Science Theater 3000 doing a voiceover where he's just talking, especially when he decides to take a nap and then wake up. You know?
Yeah.
Just to know, when he got up, everyone around him is dead, by the way, people. Because when he got up, he most likely stepped on about 50 people.
There's a good chance of that. There's a very, very good outside chance of that. They don't show you, though.
They don't show you, no. Just like they don't show whether that dog survived or not. And I remember still thinking at the part, I'm like, Chris, you freaking lied to me to scare my feelings. That dog did not survive. However, my friends had a 3-theory why it survived. You know, dogs are faster than humans. Dogs have better survival instincts. By the time the water actually reached him, it most likely receded because it's a wave. It's not a flood.
Yeah.
It's a wave. And it most likely the dog, like most animals, have climbed to a higher area.
Yeah.
I personally think the dog is dead, and that actually was on my mind for about 10 minutes. However, I was like, Chris Eaton, you suck. But my friends were like, no, I think your friend's right. I do think the dog survived. You know, but there was a lot. I do like the fact that you see the fighting on the background of the TV, and Ford's son yells, "Look, Mommy, dinosaurs are fighting." Because that's very reminiscent to how we felt or how I felt as a child. Is when I'm watching it, I think it's dinosaurs fighting. You know, so there was a lot of that, and the Mutos looked great. I love the part with the train scene where you think you've been in the mountain, but the person's actually. I mean, can they not feel it's breathing? I don't know, but it was there above them this entire time.
It was. And they did cheat a little bit with that. The fact that it was just kind of hanging out there and you didn't really hear it. Now, you know it's close because you see all the fire and everything coming from from the military fighting it down river. But the fact that it was just kind of like hanging loose, just against the mountainside when they showed up, that was a little bit of a cheat. But I gave them it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I actually liked the character design. I mean, it's a little small, but I can see that. However, I have friends who are like, "Oh no, I really like the character design," and some are like, "His head is slightly too small," and I want him to have bigger eyes.
Yeah, I mean,
I liked his eyes.
You know what? The designs felt like, especially for the female. The female felt like they took the main Cloverfield concept, bulked it up, and then added a lot of like the iris characteristics from Gamma 3.
Right.
Especially with like the glowing eye head kind of thing and just the shape of it. And the actual main head designs felt very, I want to say Gauss-ish in design as well, like especially the newer ones.
Right. I get what you mean.
But they worked well. They pulled it off very well. I enjoyed them. Are they going to be more memorable? No, I think they're going to go in that category of like where Orga stands. It's like unique design. They'll probably stand the test of time higher than like characters like Orga and stuff like that. But they're I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with this. But yeah,
That's
they're
okay.
okay. They're
There's
okay.
so much to think about.
Yeah, I'm listening to you, and I'm also putting together my little cliff notes in my head. What the stuff I want to touch upon in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, a friend actually said that it's overall not a bad movie, but it would be a great Godzilla film in 45 minutes. So actually, a lot of my friends came back and they rewatched most of the 28 movies,
Mm-hmm.
and their Facebook status says it's not because Godzilla is bad. It's a pretty decent movie, and there are much worse movies out there,
Mm-hmm.
and that the fighting was absolutely great. However, they were like, we felt like we needed more Godzilla to satiate our appetite. More Godzilla fighting, so they went
Mm-hmm.
back and they were watching like Destroy All Monsters and the original Gojira, and they were watching, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. So they were watching like a bunch because I saw their Facebook stats. But I do think that of course, when I came out, I heard a guy behind me go, "Well, there's always the next Gamera film," which we saw that it was announced because we
Yeah.
talked about it. However, I do see this film. I definitely see it having a sequel, and I will be very, very excited, and I will look forward to the sequel. I think the sequel will actually have more Godzilla.
Oh yeah, it
It's already
definitely will.
established.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of felt like there's a lot of teasing in the trailers that we saw, especially during WonderCon, and I was kind of hoping for more
Mm-hmm.
in this film. But, their fight scenes were definitely worth it at the end. I stayed all the way till the end of the credits because you never know, they might pull a Marvel. But they, sadly, alas, did not.
Yeah.
But I would have been really excited if there was.
I was talking to my buddy at the end of that. He got up and he's like, I gotta go pee, dude. And like I was staying throughout through the credits, and then literally as I got up and walked out, as I saw the blue screen hit, everyone was just like, oh, and I see him standing there. I'm like, we've all been horribly reprogrammed by Marvel.
Yes. Yes,
We've
have.
all come to expect just little Easter eggs at the end for everything now. It is diabolical because it does gets people to sit through the credits, something they 10 years ago you would never do. He was like, oh, credits up, okay, let's go. But now it's like oh well, there's nothing. Oh well, that just takes me out of the whole movie. How dare you?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. But no, and thinking back, I really love the Halo jump. It was a gorgeous scene.
Mm-hmm.
They had a couple of things like when Ford says, "Can we kill it?" It's not in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I like the fact that he didn't grow up to be a severely damaged person, despite what happened to his mom, and obviously his dad is now searching for all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Answers. He didn't grow up to be a damaged person. He has a wife and a child, and even though his dad needs to be bailed out, he goes and he gets him, and he helps them out when they want to go back to their old home place, hometown. Like, he's not a damaged person because there's no need for that extra drama.
Yeah.
And plus, the dad doesn't even make it half of the film, so there's no need for that. We don't need an emo kid doing things the entire time. So, there were a lot of really good points, and there was a lot of points I wish they were a little bit different or a little bit stronger, but I feel like this would be a good lead up to a second film. And there are movies out there where the sequel is better than the first.
Some would argue, a lot of people would argue that's exactly the way with the Batman trilogy.
I thought you were going to say Captain America.
Yeah, people would say that too. Like I said, my dad hated the first Captain America, loved the second Captain America. So, but as he put it though, it's like they got Captain America down in the second one more than they did in the first one, and also he said that they improved the costume, greatly too. But the same with Batman. It's like Batman Begins, another legendary film. Not a whole lot of Batman in it. It's mostly a character piece, and when you get him, It's really good. But then The Dark Knight comes out, and you have a strong villain. You have interesting, story to go along with it, and then you actually got a lot more Batman for your buck too, as well. So, there's I got a feeling Legendary knows what they're doing with it. They do have. They have a much better track record than many other studios, and they do have their occasional misses, like the first, the first Clash of the Titans. I would say was a definite miss. But then again, they're also responsible for stuff like Watchmen, which I still hold Watchmen to be like a great movie. So I think I think that continuing the series in their hands is going to be a good thing, especially once 8 years from now when Part 3 is coming out and everyone's looking back, and I do think it'll bring the fandom into a much better light than it already has been. So.
Right. Right. No, I get exactly what you mean. And, there was a lot of it that, as a kid I was so excited. I mean, first of all, I was telling my mom, she was like, there is no pleasing you. And I was like, one day I'll make a great Godzilla film my way. Possibly first person I call would be you. However, I told him, I go, but is 100% better than 1998. And my mother was like, okay. And so she didn't say anything, but she was trying to wrap her head around how it's 100% better, but yet not exactly what I wanted.
Well, it's like yeah. Well, it's the thing. There's no pleasing anybody, but it's also like that IMAX picture you posted of it says Godzilla in IMAX now with 100% less Matthew Broderick.
I did post that on my Facebook.
It's up on the Facebook page if you want to check it out. Whoever put that up there on that electronic sign deserves at least a nice Coke, just a tall glass. Like, here you go, you deserve this.
Yeah, it's on like a marquee that shows the time and date. Yeah, it's just the showing time and the title of the movie. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, I wanna. Oh, it was hilarious. So, yeah, when I saw that, it was like I have to repost this and then like tag every Godzilla friend I know on my Facebook list.
All right. So overall, what would you rate the movie as? Like 1 out of 5.
Oh, I thought we were gonna do grading like elementary school, not the check and check pluses, but like A through E.
Yeah, I don't want to stereotype it like a true Asian though. You get properly stamp it. Okay, so out of from an F to an A, where would you put this then?
A B plus.
Solid B plus.
Yep. And pluses count.
Yes. Oh, yes, they do. Unless you watch Community, once you find out that minuses aren't real.
Oh, yeah, with Community. Yeah, I made that Community reference to a lot of my friends, and sadly, most of them did not get it.
They just kind of looked at you with like dead eyes, like, "What are you talking about?"
And then I said, now that show is sadly canceled, you now have no excuse to just marathon through.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a great show. Season 4 gets a little rocky, but it picks back up in Season 5.
It does, and R.I.P. Than a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be some way. Maybe Hulu or Netflix will make an semi-original series, but Arrested Development style. But we'll see. Hopefully.
All right.
Yes.
Well, as for my take, as I kind of positioned earlier, I saw the movie twice. I saw it within a 48-hour period of each other. So I saw it opening night Thursday in IMAX, and then I went Saturday night, took my dad, and saw it in Dolby Atmos with 2D. So, and there were two very different screenings. IMAX, obviously, I was hyped. I was just like on a Godzilla sugar rush. I had, I got there early, got my seat, I got my giant Mr. Pibb, I got my nice pretzel, I got all the accoutrements I could think of, sat down. Theater was packed, which really brought like a tear to my eye, because the fact that I was just there 2 weeks prior to see Amazing Spider-Man, same showing, and the theater was like a quarter full. So it really showed, it's like, oh wow, people really are like really want to see this film. So part of the issue was I had two buddies that were supposed to come, and I was texting them, I was like, dude, I can't, I got people hounding me for these seats, where are you at? And no one's returning me. So I'm kind of fretting over that. My other buddy shows up, I give him the buffer seat, but we still have like people hounding us. So movie starts, I'm like, all right, whatever. So turn off the phone, sit down. Movie's rolling. Where we're sitting, the 3D wasn't the greatest. And normally we go see things in IMAX specifically for the 3D, because usually IMAX 3D, the true IMAX, I'm talking about the giant, massive auditorium with the huge screen, not the Not not the crappy new ones that they put where it's just like a slightly bigger screen with the IMAX sound system in like a normal auditorium. So the Ontario one over here in California has the giant screen, and usually the 3D is spectacular because the projector is awesome. For some reason though, the 3D, I think it might just be the post conversion process just really muddled the crap out of the picture because I'm sitting there watching it and you slightly turn your head and it's all hazy, and there are points when like it didn't really even matter. It felt like I was just watching normal 2D because it wasn't even really popping like say, as bad as Spider-Man Amazing Spider-Man 2 was, it had brilliant 3D. 300 Rise of an Empire 3D was awesome. The last 4 or 5 films we saw there were fantastic in 3D. This, nothing. And on top of that, the freaking AC wasn't working. Like it was.
Oh God.
Yes.
Oh yeah. For everyone who didn't know, how hot was it that day?
Let's see. It was 104 out where I was. That was out in the Inland Empire in California. So that's a big deserty area, and it was 104 around 1:45 p.m. And the movie started at 7, so it had dropped to a lovely 94 degrees outside. And yeah, and you have a theater packed with about 300 people, and no AC working. So it got a little moist. I'm not gonna lie. Halfway through, I'm like sweating, and my heart's kind of racing because it's hot, and I'm like what the heck is going on? So I turn to my buddy. I'm like, hey man, does it feel like the AC's off in here? And I see a bead of sweat roll down his head. He's like, yeah. So I saw the dude next to him get up and go and complain. He comes and he's like, yeah, I just told him like the AC's off. You turn it on. And then I look over to the other side. Another person got up and came back a month later and said, yeah, I told him to go turn the AC on. And this was about 45 minutes into the film. So the point where Godzilla is shoving the Mutos down the street, I kind of look, I'm like, it's been like a good hour. The AC is still not on. And we're all like sweating, and it just reeks of humanity in this place. It smells like a petting zoo now. So that was kind of taking me out of it because I'm a large man and I don't do well in the heat. So my head was just kind of like yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm in this, but it's just like, oh God, it's just hot, and you can just smell the odor off of everyone in there. So that took me a bit out of the out of the experience. And the other thing was, yeah, I hyped myself up a bit for it, and it was going along. I knew not to expect a ton of Godzilla, but when the fight scenes came along, the thing that was bothering me was the cutting away as soon as they did when they started. It was just like, okay, enough with the teasing. Just give us the big payoff, because that's what a lot of reviews are reading. It's like, oh, the ending fight scene was fantastic, and I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, it's good, but it's very minimalistic, and to a point towards it almost got annoying. So when I walked out of the movie and into the AC, I'm just like, oh, I can breathe again. My buddy turns to me, he's like, so, huh? Did you like it? Because they always give me crap because I hyped Cloverfield up so much, and then walked out of it hating it. So they're expecting this again. I'm like, no, but you know what? Give me like a day to really sit on this. She's like, oh, you didn't like it? I'm like, no. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just something felt off. So, cut to literally a week ago from when we were from this night when we were recording this Saturday. I grabbed my dad because I told him, hey, we're gonna go watch Godzilla. We go watch it at a Krikorian movie theater and by my house. They had just put the Dolby Atmos sound system in there. So if you don't know what that is like the top of the line sound system. This is like literally 360 degrees up and down of sound, and it is awesome. So we sat in there, watched it 2D, the Atmos, and the second Godzilla comes on screen and it roars, it's just like beating you in the face with just sound, and it's just like, oh, whoa. And it was a completely different experience. Walking out that second time, there was so much more I noticed about the film that I was like, wow, I didn't see that the first time. I dug it far more, and my experience of what it came out is, I like this movie a lot. Is it a perfect film? No. But is it a suitable Godzilla film? Yes, in many ways. And it was the fact that they got a lot of the character traits that I really wanted down. And the fact that even the first time out, I didn't even really notice. It's like, oh yeah, Godzilla was the good guy in this movie. Because the way the trailers build is like he's the big anti-hero. He's just this mass, force of nature. And he really wasn't. It was really more Godzilla circa 1970s, where he's fighting Hedorah, he's fighting Megalon, he's fighting, Gigan and Ghidorah, where he is the hero. Except this one, they gave him a bit of the Detective Murtaugh edge from the Lethal Weapon movies, where he was too old for this S. Like literally, you see towards the end when he's just beat to hell and gets up and he's just kind of trudging along. He's like, God, I hate this job, but he's got to do it.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He lumbers like a dude that has to go to work to pay for a bill for his 18 children.
Pretty much, which gives a little more credence to the scene when he first shows up, when he faces down the wing Muto, and you just see how angry he is. It's like literally, it's like, I was having a nice vacation, and you called me away from it, so now I gotta curb stomp the crap out of you.
He acts like he's like a unwittingly known hero. Like, he doesn't even know he is a hero.
Mm-hmm.
He's just pretty much doing what he needs to do and then goes back.
Yeah.
But he, doesn't know that, a butterfly effect or something, that he saved everyone's lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the other thing, too, is just the fact that the monsters are so just... They don't even bat an eye to any of the humans. We are literally ants, and they're just going along, doing their thing. They don't even care. We're opening fire on them? Whatever. We're just walking away. We're literally, we are the literal gnats of their existence. Especially the scene when Godzilla shows up in San Francisco the first time. He raises out of the water, and they open fire on him. And he grabs the bridge, trying to get support. He's just he literally is crawling out of bed. His knees are aching. He's just and then he's got bomb blast coming on. He's like, screw this. I gotta go to work. And he's just trudging through into the city. It doesn't even pay any mind to him at all. And I like the fact that the military finally learns, okay, just stop and let him go do his thing. Which is nice, because every other Godzilla movie is just keep bombing him. It's not working. I don't care. Just keep bombing him. So there was stuff like that. There was the moments when, especially during the fight scene with the Muto, when, especially when the flying Muto's hooking him in the mouth, and you could just see him rolling his eyes. He's you could just literally hear him say, "Oh, God damn it, come on!" There's looks of annoyance, there's look of anger. He goes through the emotional spectrum. He literally does feel like an actual actor in the film, which is one thing I really wanted out of this movie when they announced it. Was don't do what the Emmerich film did and just make him literally just a mindless animal running around. He has to have character traits. He has to have almost human character traits. That's what really makes him stand out from other giant movie monsters. King Kong's the only other one that I think that during that era that really they got it right. I think that's the guys at Toho watch Kong, especially Super I. He's look, there's character to him. There's all these traits and stuff. Let's put that into our monster, and that's what I think makes Godzilla so endearing today. There's, as much as people were complaining about how unrelatable the Aaron Taylor Johnson's character was, because he's just kind of a blank check of a character. Godzilla has traits well, he's mad, he's sad, he's all this. You can kind of relate to him, and that's part of what makes him great. Then the fact he's a big monster that breathes fire. And that was one of the other scenes that really stood out. When he's fighting the Muto, and then both Mutos just ragging on him, and he gets the upper hand, and you see Aaron Taylor Johnson. I think it was I don't remember if it was before or after they blow up the nest. I think it might have been after, when the big Muto shows up and it's just getting ready to smash Aaron Taylor Johnson, and then you see Godzilla kind of come out of nowhere, smacks the big Muto, and then you see the tail just kind of come out of the darkness, and you see those blue lights light up. That to me was just oh man, the sound it makes, that foo 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 foo, as each spike just lights up, and then the fire just shoots out as a glory, and it looks like real fire too. That's what I loved. It wasn't just a beam. It was actual, an atomic breath. There was you could see the fact that he puffed up. Like he took a huge breath in. Like he could see him just like he was like a dude sucking in his gut. Like a hot chick comes around and he just sucks it all in. And he's got that big barrel chest, and then he just leans forward and shoots that fire at the Muto. Which some people were like, well, it didn't do that much effect. I'm like, it had an effect. But if you really look at every time Godzilla uses his fire breath, the first few times doesn't do much. It's a matter of you have to wear down the opponent for it to really work. That's how it works. It blows stuff up because things are combustible, but when you go with the Street Fighter rules. You can't beat a character unless you cheat in like 2 punches. It doesn't work that way. You can do it in real life. You can hit someone in the jaw and knock them out, but I always assume that Godzilla characters follow video game fighting rules where you have to wear down an opponent before you apply the finishing move to take him out. That's kind of how it works, and that's how the atomic breath works. Yes, it's his big, it's his trump card, but unless you wear him down enough, it doesn't finish the job in one blast. But it was just such a great scene, especially when he's just unloading on him, and the fact that there's no explanation. It's like, yeah, he breathes fire, and everyone was just looking like, what the hell is he doing? It's like, apparently he breathes fire. All right, let's just move on. I thought that was fantastic. I did like the fact that the Mutos had a lot of personality to themselves. The male, especially, just kind of just being an overall. He seemed like an overall dick more than anything else. Like, just it's hard to explain, but he did come off as kind of like it's kind of as a little bit of a douchebag in monster terms. The female seemed pretty much just kind of there for the sake of being there for something as big for Godzilla to fight. I did like the fact that they kind of followed the kind of spider kingdom rules where the female's always bigger than the male, and then the fact that they gave them different traits. The female can't fly, the male can fly, so it made for a very interesting fight between the two at the end. The 2-on-1 fight where the male is like dragging Godzilla by the head and throwing him around while the female can like literally just just pound on him and stuff like that. I thought that was great. The moments, like the building of like Godzilla showing up was great. There was a lot of very Spielbergian moments in this, just like a lot of characters, like just the shots of like faces reacting to stuff. The movie did feel like it took a lot of Jurassic Park moments. The thing that really stood out to me the most was when the male Muto blew out of its cocoon, and they're trying to shock it. And there's that quiet moment, and you see the claw come up and grab the cables, and it makes the exact same sound that the T-Rex claw makes when you see him come into Jurassic Park the first time when the power's off, and you hear the cable snap when he breaks out of that. I swear to God, that's the exact same sound that the Muto makes when he breaks out of his little prison. The teasing, that's fine. Like, especially the first fight between Godzilla and the Muto, when you just see it on TV, I'm like, oh, that's great. But the problem was when they came down to the final fight, they did not. I wanted them to kind of just linger on the fights a little bit longer. I know everything was kind of done in a from a perspective, especially from the human perspective, which I thought was great. It gave the shots a lot more scale and just overall oomph to them. But the fact that, okay, so the character turned away, we're just going to keep following these dudes and, see everything in the background. It's like, just kind of, this is what you've been building to. Let us have our cake. Like, you've been teasing us, like, we're baking it. We're, the smell's coming. Like, oh, it smells great. Putting the icing on it. Putting the little candles. Okay, blow it out. You can have a little piece at the end. That's all you get. It's like, what about the rest of it? The rest of it's for later. It's like, you just worked me up for this delicious cake, and you're only going to let me have a small taste of it. Yeah. It's like, that's not fair, and that's not cool. That's the one thing I could really say about this movie that I did not, that just bugged me to no end, was the fact that they really came up short on that big final scene. And I know everyone complains about the disaster porn that we get in films today, especially a lot from Man of Steel, and I do think that Man of Steel might have affected how the final shot, the final battle of Godzilla turned out, because there were people who loved the ending of Man of Steel with the fight between Zod and Superman, but there were so many people who were just like, all they did was just bash each other and just buildings fell. It's like, what was I getting out of that? It's like, yeah, You're getting two guys who are essentially gods beating the hell out of each other, and what do you think's going to happen? They're just going to tiptoe around the city? No, they're going to be doing stuff that you can't see in real life, and that's why they're putting it up there. And when there was such a backlash to that, I got a feeling that because it's produced by Legendary, the people, especially like Thomas Tull at Legendary, were like, let's scale back a little bit on the mass wanton destruction and just give it to the people in like little doses. And as much as I'm complaining about it, there were a lot of people that really liked that. The fact that it wasn't all like disaster porny at the end. I would argue differently, as many people would argue, but that's just me.
Right. No, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. And there was even a comparison chart afterwards. Someone made these little memes that was like Godzilla and the two Mutoses. Their destruction, or how much it would cost to rebuild the city, is like way less than the estimated amount in Man of Steel.
Yeah. And you figure, too, that Man of Steel is two tiny dudes doing that much damage, which was part of the reason why it was so... Well, not only that, but what is it? The machine. The gravity machine they were using. That was also a reason for causing half the damage. I think a lot of people forget that, too. But, no, I mean, with Godzilla, I mean, the fights were great. There was... Again, I do love that they shot a lot of the fights from perspectives that you normally would only get if people, like someone with a camera would be up there shooting it. It's far different from what we get from all the other films, and I know a lot of people are complaining. It's like, well, normally with the films you just focus on the monsters. I'm like, yeah, but we have 28 films now that do that exact same thing. Let them try something different. It's okay. We have other movies that give us those shots. I know the fact that this is the second big budget attempt, so you want to see what Toho shoots but done on a massive budget. That's not what they were aiming for with this film, and I accepted that long ago. This was going to be something different, but it was still going to try to be a Godzilla film. That was fine. I do think that it was a mistake killing off Bryan Cranston's character so early. I know it was pretty much just trying to be a ballsy move, but I think that if they let him hang on and followed Aaron Taylor Johnson a little bit, the fact that they could have at least given him a little more, at least his character. They're going to kill him off a little later in the film, so that way he has some sort of like personal redemption to the fact that he was right the whole time. Like he knew there was something wrong with it wasn't a natural disaster that killed his wife that caused the power plant to collapse. It was something much grander that people were keeping quiet. And at least let him witness the scale of the fact that even though his wife died and he survived that there was something far bigger coming out of that. As for Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, I thought he was fine. A lot of people I saw complaining the fact that he's just conveniently where everything happens to be. I'm like, well, no, he's a military dude. His dad is trying to figure out what caused the power plant wreckage. So when his dad gets arrested, that's what brings him into it. They're there at the power plant where his dad was trying to break into. They get pulled into it. That brings him and him and his dad who had all that collective data following the military as they're following the monsters. So it's only going to make sense that he's going to be there for most of the stuff. It makes sense the fact that he's the bomb diffuser, so he's following along with this bomb. Some of the points that people are making, it's like, well, why would they transport by train? It's like they pointed out the Mutos put out a massive EMP that goes way up in the air, and they show you what happens when planes are flying in the area. There was that shot from the trailer that's in the film of the all those cars going around that plane crash. So yeah, they're obviously going to take it on a steam engine. I mean, they make the whole point. You can't use modern electronics on this thing. So yeah, I bought into that fine. I thought his character was fine. His whole arc, his whole point was, as you said, was to be the eyes and ears for the audience. He's literally the avatar that we're playing in this game, that we see all this stuff go on. And that's really his main purpose, was just to get back home to his family. I don't need him to have any quirky traits. I don't need him to really be doing anything more than what he was doing in the film. He was perfectly serviceable, and he was perfectly fine. I like the fact that he didn't have to be directly involved with having to beat the monsters, and having to, be the guy that comes up with any of the stuff to beat the monsters. He was just like, you got a bomb, I know how to defuse it, it got stolen by these creatures, I can go help you. And that's pretty much it. And it puts him in the spot where we can get those awesome shots of Godzilla and the Mutos fighting. Fine with me.
Right.
As for Ken Watanabe's character, he's obviously going to be a character that's going to be coming back. So he's our exposition guy, explaining where these things come from, what they do, and that's cool. That's all he really needs to be. And the fact that some people were saying like, man, they really wasted the star power on some of this cast. I mean, like, these are great actors. I would argue it's like they gave them this because these are actors that at least would make the most out of what they were given. Some would argue that they didn't. Like Ken Watanabe, he was just kind of like he was slack-jawed most of the time, just kind of like either he looked like he just woke up and was just like groggy half the time, or he was just completely blown away by everything he was seeing.
Yes, a friend pointed out as if he was just shocked at every moment.
Well, it's been all this stuff that he knows is out there he's never seen firsthand himself, and the fact that like, oh wow, it's like literally it's like you grew up living unicorns and you have unicorn toys and unicorn posters, and then one day there's a unicorn outside your door making coffee, and it's like you're gonna just have like, oh wow, that's cool, there's a unicorn. It's like, no, you're gonna be blown away a bit. So you got to take it in, and that's what he was taking in. And the fact is like, wow, I was right the whole time. There's all this crazy cool crap out there. Wow.
Did you like the part when he had to bring out his father or grandfather's watch to remind them it was what happened in like 1944, 45?
Yeah, I get that. It's much like the it got a little heavy-handed. I know that was them trying to put the horrors of atomic bombs, that message into it. I did see it from the military's point of view, and I did see it from his point of view. They both made solid arguments. The fact was, when the lieutenant mentions like, we tried to blast him, but that was with weapons back then. Like, these weapons, like, we're talking from kilotons to megatons. It's like the one that we blasted him with in 1954 looks like a firecracker compared to this thing. They're like, yeah, they're attracted to the radiation, but the blast will probably kill him. It makes sense. Makes sense. But at the same time, he's also pointing out, it's like, they eat the damn radiation, so how are you going to blow it off before are you going to be able to blow it off before they even, break the thing and suck it dry? So, and if not, the blast, if they're not near the blast, or they can survive the blast, all they're going to do is just suck up all the radiation around it. So, they both made strong, solid points. A lot of people were just kind of overlooking. It's like, yeah. So, but yeah, I didn't have an issue with that. I really didn't have many issues. The main issue I had, besides the fight scenes, was the fact that they decided not to detonate they decided to detonate the bomb instead of fixing it, even though they had a couple of minutes. That seemed a little, and the fact, much like the bomb in Batman and Dark Knight Rises, that it's like, yeah, it only went off a couple of miles out at sea.
I was gonna say, Ford would have not made it on that helicopter.
No.
Everybody would have been gone. That mushroom cloud would have been
massive.
Ginormous.
And the EMP would have knocked out the helicopter too.
Right.
I mean, that's they cheated on that one. I would argue, though, that the fact that people would say that, the fallout alone would have killed all those people. They could probably explain it in the second film that Godzilla literally sucked up all the fallout. That's how he got back up and just walked away. That's what I'm reasoning off of it.
Right. And actually, to point out something else that, that they did really well, you were talking about they ate the radiation.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, everyone's reasoning is, why don't you just blow up the Mutos? And the commanding officer was like, well, we don't know what it will do because that's what they feed off, which is radiation. So we don't know how far the blast will be. We don't know how many people will be hurt. I like the fact that there's a thinking element to the military, and they weren't just trying like, yep, we tried to blow it up and it didn't work. I was like, why would you do that? Because other films would have just done it Michael Bay style, just to do it. So, but they didn't. They chose not to do it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really good. But no, I was thinking the same thing at the end where, Ford's being picked up by the helicopter and he sees from his blurry point of view, the bomb goes off, and all I can think is, here's a Batman, the Dark Knight Rises moment here.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of a small cloud.
Yeah, I would be.
Small mushroom cloud.
It would. It's the fact that they really put out the fact it's like this bomb's pretty big. It's going to be killing 3 monsters, so, and it really wasn't that far out. It was probably about like what I would say 3 miles out, 4 miles out at the most, and they were trying to drag it 20 miles out. So, yeah, they got away with a cheat on that one too. There was a couple of them, but it wasn't enough to really kind of take me out of the film. It wasn't the level of Dark Knight Rises where there's like, okay, look, I know he's Batman, but how in the hell did he get halfway around the world without anybody knowing? It wasn't as bad as that.
Right. No, I get what you mean.
Yeah. I thought the story was fairly solid. The fact that Godzilla turned out to be much more of a hero, and he acted a lot like the best elements of the '70s films combined with a lot of like the elements of like the late '90s films. I liked that call in the end. The design worked very well for me in the end. Just and like the little mannerisms, everything, especially that second time around with hearing the sound that Atmos gave. That there's amazing sound in this film. Like the sound design is off the wall. I love the Mutos have a very distinct call. That's one thing that really bugged me about especially like Cloverfield and Pacific Rim. It's like the beauty about Toho films, like each of the monsters have like a distinct call, even though a couple of them are just kind of recycled from other monster calls. At least they all sound different, and there's like you can hear them and you can automatically say, oh, well, that's this monster. Or like Anguillus, like at the beginning of the show, you know that's Anguillus. Godzilla has a distinctive, Rodan has a distinctive, Ghidorah does. They gave Godzilla and the Mutos very distinctive roars too. The Mutos had that almost raptor-like clicking sound that they make, which I thought was very cool. And Godzilla's roar was a much better update than what I think the '98's roar was. I mean, it still retain the classic kind of baritone to it, but with just enough of like a real animal in there. So yeah, overall, I would give it as you would. I would give it a solid B, and maybe B plus, maybe not, but a B definitely. In the annuals, I think I would need a couple more watches to where I would rate this in the annuals of Godzilla films. Is it going to be one of the best? Probably not, but it'll probably be up there with some of the better, more rewatchable films. Definitely a step above a lot of the '90s films, and it's a step above many of the Millennium films.
No, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. I was going to ask you through your elementary school, middle school grading. Mm-hmm. What would you give it?
A solid B. A solid B, definitely a B. Much like you, maybe not a B plus, but definitely a B.
I thought you were going to go with like an A minus or something.
No, there's still a lot of the film that just feels. Again, the whole aspect, as I put, like how much it goes like. Okay, let me say it like this. As I said on Twitter the night after, the '98 film rips off the '98 film rips off Jurassic Park, while this film pays perfect homage to Jurassic Park. The fact that they still tried to follow that kind of it truly wasn't its own thing in many ways. They were still aping a couple of things. They were aping really good things, but they're still aping certain aspects. It kind of took a little bit out of it for me. If you look at like the Millennium films, they are like these wild, wacky ideas that they just run with. But perhaps that's the reason why we don't have films from Japan anymore, because as much as people, as much as like, well, we're trying something new, people weren't buying into it. And obviously the general public, from a $93 million weekend, which was far above what they were expecting, likes the fact that it has an air of familiarity to it. And I guess, that's what sells. That's what's going to sell. So, if the general public likes it and it's going to grant us more, all for it. As a hardcore fan, I liked it a lot. It has its issues, but it is nowhere near a bad movie in any way. But a great film, maybe not. But it is a very solid film. So I'll leave it. I'll leave it at it's a solid film. Definitely something I will buy, and definitely something I'm going to watch again.
I think I would definitely get it and then watch the fight scene. Or if someone could gladly do it for me on YouTube, just kind of do a cut, like a montage.
Yeah. Ironically, I was watching that for before we started for Reign of Fire. Someone had just cut all the dragon scenes together. It literally was like 13 minutes of the whole film. Which one people were complaining like, yeah, there's not a lot of Godzilla in this movie. It's like, well, whenever you look at like monster movies like that, the monster's never in the film a whole lot, and usually if he is, people complain it's like, well, they showed too much of the monster, kind of took it out for me. So I'll say that yeah, there wasn't a lot of Godzilla, but then again, in some of the later films, there's not. If you watch Godzilla vs. Megalon, he doesn't show up until the very end of the film, and that's all he does. He just shows up to fight. He has no bearing on the full outcome of the story. He's just there to fight. That's it. But much like Godzilla vs. Gigan, he pretty much spends 90% of the film swimming across the ocean, and then the entire third act, he's just fighting. That's all it is. So it's not like this kind of thing was not done before, and not done by the very people that created Godzilla. So I mean, yeah, you can complain, and I know why people are complaining is the fact that it's like this was supposed to be the true redemption for Godzilla from especially what the Sony movie did, and they for the most part stuck the landing. They might have tripped up a bit on certain aspects, but I think they still did a pretty good job though. And considering that this was a $160 million film, which sounds like a lot, and it is not a lot compared to like a lot of other films that are out there. Like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 costs, I believe, $220 million, and it does not look like a $220 million film. Godzilla, on the other hand, looks like a far more expensive film than it really is. So they had to make do with with the budget that they had. So that meant not having a ton of monster scenes, and there was a lot of other effects stuff, like especially like the whole the whole part where they're in Japan and they're in the quarantine zone. I mean, you look at that; that was a beautiful shot, and that's all CG. So anyway, good solid film. I did ask a couple of people what they thought. Pull up the reviews here real quick. So, what did your friends think altogether, Jessica?
You know, a lot of my friends were not Godzilla fans. They only really had two things to say.
Mm-hmm.
One, they wanted more Godzilla kaiju fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And two, they were pleasantly surprised because not all of them knew about his atomic breath, and that none of them was bothered by the glow.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't think it was cheesy. They didn't think it was hokey or anything. They were like, it was great. It's not like he like neon flashed green, yellow like a disco ball. So
yeah,
that was actually most of their two things. They were like, I wish there was more kaiju fighting,
mm-hmm.
and I wish there was more Godzilla. Obviously, less human interest. And I really, really liked the part where he opened up the mouths of the Mutos. Didn't see that coming. Thought he was just going to, pry it open like a pistachio.
Mm-hmm.
However, instead he blew atomic breath into it.
That was a cool shot.
So they really liked that.
It was something we've never really been given in any of the other films, too. We kind of got it with Godzilla 2000, but the fact that it really was kind of a cheat because, like, Orga was swallowing Godzilla like a python. You didn't really get that kind of effect that they did in this film. Going through the couple of comments we got on the Facebook page, Gary Johnson wrote, "My son Kyle and I loved it, enjoyed the human storyline, and the special effects were excellent. We both were happy that Godzilla was a hero. Just like some classic Showa-era films, we'll appeal to the mainstream, to the box office numbers support this. We have seen it twice, and we'll go again next weekend." We were dumbfounded by the reaction of another Godzilla-related podcast, though. So, again, some hardcore fans weren't caring for it. And then Heath Anderson said, "A slow burn that loves to tease, but well worth the wait. I loved it." So those are the reactions on our Facebook page. I know my dad loved it, and he's just a giant monster guy. He doesn't care much for ironically, the films that he turned me on to. He's just like, they're all cheesy, but he does love a good monster movie. And I'm like, "So what do you think?" He's like, oh God, son, that was great. It's like, just that's how they should have been doing it from like the get-go. I'm like, well, when you have $160 million and the right person doing it, you obviously can get something good out of it. So if he liked it, then it really showed me that the general public was really going to like it. So
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So in other news, though, we know that 93 million. So it made 100 million in 4 days, which was really damn good. X-Men is out this weekend, so it's taken a bite out of that, which I think everyone expected it to. When you have so many big movies together, they do cannibalize each other. So far, it's looking to have a 60% drop, which, yeah, sounds bad, but when most of your screens are being taken up by another heavy film, and it is a holiday weekend, that's understandable. You can't have, a constant, the movie's not going to make like 80 million the next weekend. Everyone's going to go see it the first weekend, and thus there's going to be a drop. But it's still making a decent amount of money. It's not like how much Spider-Man dropped in the second week, which it got beaten out by a Seth Rogen film, which was saying something.
Yes, Neighbors.
Yeah. So yeah, Spider-Man's been eating it real bad. Godzilla, on the other hand, though, looks like it'll have steady legs for a while. But I do. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So 93 million. The movie did fantastic, far better than anyone expected, and thus, because of that, Walt Disney Pictures felt that Gareth Edwards was the perfect guy to hire for the first Star Wars spin-off film. So, did you hear about that, Jessica?
I did, because the moment that happened, I went on my news feed and there was nothing but Gareth Edwards' name written with Star Wars font in the beginning of the scroll-like text fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So people were very, very excited.
Yeah. So the news broke Thursday. Disney has hired Gareth Edwards to direct the first spin-off film. There was a lot of jokes like, "Oh, is he going to make the Rancor movie?" And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. But the what he's doing yet has not been announced. It does come out in 2016, so that's literally the next thing he's jumping on. He's probably going to jump on it very soon. Which is, Disney's trying to get their, what was it, $4 billion out of this franchise that they invested into it. So good on them. And the fact that, he is visually a captivating director. I know some people have problems with Monsters with the human cast. It's just the story's very basic. I think he'll do fine with it. He directs, especially when the actors really have a grip on what they're doing, especially like Bryan Cranston. Bryan Cranston just kind of owned everything that he was, every moment he was in. So, getting the right, it's a matter of getting, just all the ingredients together. I think he'll do a fine Star Wars film. I know that he loves, much like many filmmakers, loves Star Wars. So, if it's rumored, he'll probably be doing the Red 5 movie, which is an X-Wing film, which will be very interesting. And then, literally like an hour after this announcement was made, Thomas Tull tweeted that, hey, congrats, Gareth, big news. Yeah, we just want to let everyone know that as soon as he's done with that, he's coming back for Godzilla 2 and 3. So, we got not only a second one coming, which we knew literally the weekend after the film, hit, there's going to be a third one. So they're doing a trilogy. So they're literally doing their own Dark Knight trilogy with Godzilla. Depending on how those go, they'll probably do more. The fact that Gareth's coming back to have to do those two, I'm kind of mixed on it. I'm the type of person that doesn't feel that you need the same director for every... If you're doing a whole trilogy, you don't need one. You don't need the same guy to come back. I know for continuity's sake, to keep the story there. But this Godzilla is something that is open. There's not going to be... clearly, that's not going to be a continuing story from the first one. Like, the only characters you could realistically bring back are Ken Watanabe and his assistant, whose name is escaping me at the moment. Obviously, they'll come back, but you can't. The Ford family's done. There's no reason to bring them back. So you can leave it open for another director to come in and give their take on Godzilla. The palette's already there, so they can work with what Gareth Edwards had made and add their own, flavor to it. So, the Legendary feels like, no, let's keep Gareth on him and keep making him. That's where they're going to go, that's where they go. That's fine. I'm not going to have... he's going to make, great movies. I get a feel... They already said that they want to do, like, a more monstery part 2. So, they kind of want to go Dark Knight with it. Just, like, bigger and badder. But, eventually I would like to see, other directors get a crack at it. I'm hoping that, excuse me. Ooh, throat's really dry. That the third one, the interest is still up there. That they keep making these, and they let other people come in and have a chance at we won't know that for 2017, 18. We're looking at probably 2018 for part 2 at the earliest. So
Yeah, it might be a little while since he's got Star Wars, and also, I would be interested in seeing, like you said, other directors' take on it. I can only imagine what a, Del Toro take on Godzilla would be. Definitely not a Tim Burton or Tarantino.
well,
However, there's also other great directors out there. I swear, somebody's going to comment and say Whedon. However, there are other directors like Gareth Edwards was, for many people, kind of not a well-known, little known until now, and that Halo jump was one of the most gorgeous scenes. So it was like a concept art or a painting come to life. So, there's ones, of course someone's going to be like, what would J.J. Abrams' version of Godzilla be?
I'm going to leave it
other than with lens flares.
I'm going to put it out there right now. I don't care what a J.J. Abrams version is going to look like. I have no care whatsoever if he does it.
Oh, some people really like him.
I know some people really like him. You know what? I liked Star Trek Into Darkness a lot, so I'm hoping that, Star Wars is pretty good. But until then, I'm gonna take a wait and see approach to that. Like, he's very hit and miss for me now, and at the point where I really kind of don't care what he does anymore.
I could actually see the Russo brothers doing one because I kind of saw what they did with Winter Soldier. Yeah. And also, if I can pronounce, is it the Wachowski brothers?
Oh, I would love the Wachowskis. Jupiter Ascending looks fantastic. I'm like one of like 5 people who are looking forward to that film.
Yeah, but no, it would be really, really interesting. I would be interested to see what Favreau's take on it would be.
I think Favreau would do a very good movie. The thing is, Favreau's not big on action. If you watch the Iron Man movies, like, the action's there, but it's not like grand scale stuff, especially like fights. Like, he clearly does not like doing fights. The fight between Ironmonger and Iron Man at the end is very short and to the point. The fight between War Machine and Iron Man against Whiplash is non-existent at all in the film. It's literally like a minute and a half of the film. So he'd probably do a very good character piece movie with spectacle to it. I would love to see the guy that made Troll Hunter. Let him take a crack at it. I know he's got a couple of things coming up, but I would love to see Legendary give him a shot. God, who else is out there? I'm trying to think who would do spectacle. I think Alan Taylor, the guy that did the last Thor film, I think he'd make a pretty good one. I like Thor Dark World a lot. So, but yeah, there's a lot of guys out there I think that would love to take a crack at Godzilla, and I'm hoping Legendary opens it up, lets other people playing that Sandlot. So.
There was a director, he just came to me, and for some reason, oh my goodness, he would have been a really interesting one. Oh my goodness. We were talking about the Russo brothers, and you were talking about the various people, like the guy that did Troll Hunter, and I thought of a great director that kind of, when none of this is going to bother me, so when that name finally comes, and I suddenly just yell out a person's name like I have Tourette, then you guys will know that Jessica had mentioned it 10 minutes ago. So do not jump in your car seat or wherever you guys are listening to in this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I thought of somebody that would have been really great. It will come to me.
Yeah.
That person's name will come to me. I know it's a guy. So that person's name will come to me.
On a side note, would you buy into the theory that Godzilla is very Jason Voorhees-y in this film? Like, just, he cannot abide by monsters getting it on. Like, that's the whole driving point of Jason. Like, people are getting busy, and he's just like, no, I gotta put a stop to this. That's what it felt like in many ways, like he was doing. Like, it was just, there's a little cartoon that Matt Frank had tweeted, that it's like Godzilla, like, staring. He's like thinking, it's just like, it sounds like 2 monsters are getting on. It's like, I gotta stop them. Like, he's very prudish. Like, he's uber conservative, and he can't abide by free love that the hippie Mutos offer.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
So
Yeah.
that's
No.
one of the things I was really thinking about. Was it's like they do mention that the Mutos are parasitic, that they are kind of an invasive species, and they're a little out of hand. That's why Godzilla's there. But the movie makes them so sympathetic that it's just like just let them have their little Muto family. The male can go out and get a job and support his little Muto babies. Godzilla though was like, no. I will not abide by this.
Oh my
He
goodness.
can't handle it. He represents what's the worst of like 1960s like conservatism.
There's going to be out there where there's going to be some activist blog that will say that this movie is like anti-Christian or really Christian or somehow anti-feminist or does something. I look forward to those because they're always very interesting because I'm always like, there's so many billions of people in this world, and we all kind of think differently. I mean, some we think the same, some are different, but I'm just fascinated by the different types of thoughts and ideas and concepts that people have out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that read a lot into movies. That sometimes it's like, where are you getting this from?
Yes, no, I know exactly what you mean.
So, but the other thing is, too, that I think one of the greatest things this movie will give us in the long run is going to be all the horrible incest means for Avengers 2.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for
That's
that
what I
day
was
to come.
thinking.
Because Elizabeth Olsen's playing Scarlet Witch, and Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver, which, especially now if you watch X-Men Days Future Past, it's going to be very interesting to compare the two Quicksilvers. Because everyone's thinking like, oh man, this Quicksilver's gonna be real. Because he's the other dude from Kick-Ass. So literally, it's like
Yes, they're both from Kick-Ass. Yeah.
So it's gonna be like the two Kick-Ass versions of Quicksilver, and who's gonna do one better? Is it gonna be Singer or is it gonna be Whedon? Because Singer's got his out first, and when you watch X-Men Days Future Past, his Quicksilver, like even though he kind of dresses like a douchebag, his scene is one of the best in the movies. It's awesome. So, and it looks like that they're doing a different character take in Avengers. Like the X-Men Days Future Past is far more kind of happy-go-lucky. The other one looks a little more like he's got a little bit of weight on his shoulders. But you just know people are gonna be taking that DVD capture next year of all the scenes of those two together and just gonna be putting. It's like, remember that time when Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver made out? Yeah.
Yeah, a part of me, when they were on the couch, I was like, Wanda, no!
Yeah.
But it happened.
It's like that. I see that with a lot of Eurotrip stuff put together. It's like, hey, can I see your fromers? Yeah. Oh, hey, here's something interesting. You made out with your sister.
I actually really like Eurotrip. It's one of my guilty pleasure
It's a
movies.
fantastic film. I vehemently defend that film against anybody that calls it junk.
Oh, it's because Scotty doesn't know.
No, he doesn't. So,
He does.
in other news bits, because we're already running a little bit long. Other news bits. IDW has announced a new Godzilla miniseries for this summer. I believe Kingdom of Monsters, or not Kingdom of Monsters. That's the original one. Rulers of Earth is going to continue on for at least a few more issues. They said it is going past issue 12, so that's kind of cool. But the first side story since, I believe, Half Century War, the miniseries that for a while they were running a congruent series and a miniseries next to it, which was always cool because much like we were just talking a couple minutes ago, let other people have a chance. IDW's like giving other people chances to tell Godzilla stories, and this looks like one of them. It's Godzilla Cataclysm, and I believe it's a 5-issue miniseries. And it literally, it's 1 of 5, and it's looking into the world post, Kaiju. So, it looks like they're kind of taking the enormous story element and just transferring it to Godzilla.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of people who were like, oh, this wasn't really the Godzilla movie that I wanted, but they don't have access to the other 28 films. I'm like, that's what the comics are for. I mean, that's what satisfies people and ties people over to things.
Yeah.
Doctor Who was not around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You got your books, you got your games, you got your role playing. I mean, card games. I don't know. You got all kinds of things. There are, things to kind of tie you over until something else. Can't wait for the Man of Steel 2. Well, actually, now it's a very long name.
A very long and terrible. It's a very long and
I would
terrible
like to
name.
call it. Can't wait. Read the comics.
Exactly.
You need more Batman, Superman. Go read the comics. So, I have friends who are like, oh, but, I don't really have access to the 28 films. I kind of want more. And I was like, no problem. Go to your local comic book store, look for IDW, and get someone to read it.
Do that because those books are very dependent on people buying the trades and buying the issues. From what I learned talking to a few people, like, yeah, they're doing okay. They could be doing a lot better though. So go out there and buy them. Go out there and buy them. They're, especially if you really want to get into something, the 2 trades for Rulers of Earth are out right now, and that's one of the best series that they're doing right currently. You got Chris Mowry writing, and you got Matt Frank doing the art. It's fantastic. It has a ton of monsters in it. It's got an alien plot in it. It's really cool. So go give that a chance. Go pick up Half Century War. That's a fantastic story. Gangsters and Goliaths is really good. So if you go out and buy and support it, it keeps it going. So, and believe me, these are the best representation of Godzilla's in comics ever. IDW's doing a really good job at them. Mostly because they got the licensing from Toho for other monsters. So if you show them support, man, it keeps Godzilla, and it keeps Godzilla alive in America in a far more mainstream way than just idle repeats on cable.
Right. No, I got what you mean. Yeah, exactly.
So, go check that out. Also, if you are going to be in San Diego for Comic-Con this summer, I know Jessica and I will be, you might want to head to the Nika booth, because they got something really cool that they're selling there exclusively at Comic-Con. They're Pacific Rim figures, if you have not picked them up yet, or you're having trouble picking them up, like many were. They're offering what they are calling the end credits box set. So the cool CG end credits that play at the end of Pacific Rim with the black kind of monochrome looking paint jobs, they are offering those as a 3-pack set. You can get Crimson Typhoon, Striker Eureka, and Gypsy Danger, all in like a very sleek and sexy black paint job. And the visors, or the eyes, if you will, they all have glow-in-the-dark paint. So when you put them in your room, you turn on your light, you just see them light up like mystics in the night. It's going to be $60 for the 3-pack, so it comes out about like $20 a figure, which isn't too bad. And it comes in a really cool box with the Pan Pacific logo on it. I'll put those in the show notes to have everyone check out. Next episode, though, I'm going to say this for this. I picked up Nika's Godzilla, the legendary figure that came out. It is an amazing piece of toy. So I'm going to say that for next episode. But in the meantime, though, just go out and get it for yourself. We'll talk about it for the next episode. And I think that's about it. Jessica, do you have anything else you would like to say?
I was going to say, are you going to risk it to get the biscuit and try to get the exclusives at the show at San Diego Comic-Con? Or are you going to say, my time is precious and I much rather spend that extra $30 and get it on eBay later?
No, I'm going to risk it, because at least Nika's booth is far more manageable than, say, Hasbro or Mattel's. Those are like, you got to bribe people to get into those booths. Like, you got to like slip like 100 underneath someone's, little clipboard, or maybe do a little bartering. Nika's is like, you just get there early enough and you line up. They're fairly fast, and they run a very tight ship. For the most part, if you get within the first 2 days, you get there within the first 2 days. They lot everything out over for 5 days, so they sell only so many per day, which is really good because that way they don't blow their load the first day and it's like, oh, sorry, nothing for the rest of the show. If you get there early enough, you can grab it. So I've gotten pretty much. My buddy usually buys the Nika video game figures for the last couple of years, and they put out Gears of War. So I've had really no issue getting them, other than it takes about 25 minutes out of my con-going experience. And usually those are taken up with the fact that I couldn't get into a certain panel anyway, so it's like, I got a half hour to blow right now until I gotta go do something else, so might as well go try to get a figure.
Right, that's true. That's very true. And if it doesn't take up so much of your time, because, we'll be there for the 5 days.
Yes.
So if it's not going to take too much of our time. It's not like it's a 3-hour wait, which is a significant portion, a larger percentage. And, yeah, it might be worth it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wait until, if I have the patience, I will wait till like 6 months later, 10 months later when the want has died down. Then you can get it at a little bit better price, or you just happen to keep your eyes peeled for it when you're going to other conventions.
Yeah.
Because every once in a while at somebody's booth, you'll see, Tiny Titans in a bus or something, or Teen Titans in a bus, which was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and they'll have a little like post-it note usually by the retailer's booth, and it would say like San Diego Comic-Con 2000 something exclusive.
Yeah, it's like I need to get rid of this now. Nobody's bought it, so I just want to get my money back on it.
Yep, exactly. So, and they charge a couple bucks more, and that's how I got mine. Because, you and I, for those who don't know, Chris and I do press, so we're always busy kind of running around, and sometimes we just don't have the time or the money to pay a child to wait in line for us. Not that we're promoting, child labor laws here, but there's no one that can stand in for us, or we just can't afford that time.
Comic-Con,
because we have, stuff to do.
Comic-Con's almost no man's land in its own way. Like the rules of the outside don't apply on inside there. It's like prison in many ways. Like it is. It runs by its own law.
It is. I've seen a 50-year-old man almost backhand an 8-year-old just to get a toy. So, was it terrible? Was it horrible to watch? Yes. Does it sum up parts of a Comic-Con experience? Also, yes.
I saw a man literally last year, risk his infant son's life to get Dragon Ball Z Scouters. It was hilarious.
God.
It was quite hilarious. He had his son gaped in one hand and his arm on the wall where the fire marshals were yelling at him, you got to be against the wall, and the guy's just looking at me like, please, man, let me scooch in here. I'm like, dude, I'm sucking it in as much as I can. You're going to have to it's going to have to get we're going to get a little tender for a minute, but if you want that, you're going to just squeeze in here. And he's got his kid, like, popping out, and I just see the dude, back of this dude's head and his little kid's head, he's oblivious to what's going on, other than the fact it's like, there's a lot of people here. What am I doing?
There are adults who use strollers as weapons.
Yeah, they do.
And there are people, they use that more than the people I saw. I saw the same service dog couple days in a row, and that poor little animal's face had the look of, this is the worst obstacle course I have ever gone through. There are too many people, and it's like, this is my job. I live to serve this human.
It's like one day my one day my kind will rise up, and we will be walking you.
Oh yeah, or have like a We 3 moment from Grant Morrison's book. But for those who haven't read it, read it. It's great. However, that poor service animal's dog. That poor service animal's like facial expression. That poor little doggy. It was a black lab, and it looked like the saddest thing. I wanted to, in a way, cut its leash to let it free. I wanted to just run by, unhook it, and be like, run, dog. Run like your life depends on it. Homeward bound. Go home. Oh, that poor... and then I saw it sit and get its tail stepped on and not do anything.
Yeah, people are pretty oblivious at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Just don't care. That's why I said it's like,
do not care.
That's why I said it's like very, very, very martial law. Alrighty. Well, we're at 104. We're at an hour and 40 minutes already. So, I figured we'd go a little late with this one. We had a lot to talk about, but that means now we've come over the hump. So we're now entering new territory. So the where we go from here on is going to be a strange and wonderful ride. Uh, Jessica, tell the good people where they can find more of our work.
Oh, more of our
Mhm.
work. All I had on my mind was a confession
Oh.
to people.
Oh.
I wanted to wear a Godzilla kind of onesie, they're called like karagunis or whatever.
Mhm.
I can't pronounce the word. Onesie. It was too damn hot.
Mhm.
So not only did I not wear a Godzilla onesie, feety pajamas, I actually was at a friend's place, so I was not near any of my stuff. I had to take a Gamera plushie that one of my friends had given me. And as we were going, my friend was like, that one's not in the movie, is it? And I was like, no. I go, this one's actually Friend of the Children. And they were like, what? And I was like, oh. And I could see judging eyes as I went through the theater. But now I feel so relieved. I've let that off my chest because nobody knew except for my couple of friends that went with me that night.
Well, it couldn't have been. At least it would have looked much better than that Godzilla costume that just hit the net. Where it's going to be a Halloween costume, and it looks worse than the initial costume they released. It looks really bad. It looks just as bad. It looks as bad as the pull down hoodie one too.
Oh, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Actually, I was going to say at least I didn't bring a '98 Godzilla toy with me, or even worse, I need to make my own Matthew Broderick plushie doll and bring it to Godzilla 2. And then everyone around me would hate me.
Yeah.
But to find, I guess for more people to find my ranting, we are on Twitter as the Kaiju Kingdom. We are on Facebook as the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast. We are also on Tumblr as the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast.tumblr.com. Also, if you feel the need to pester us through email, we are the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast at gmail.com. And that's where you can find our collective work. And I believe Chris will let us know whether it's on iTunes.
It's in the process right now. Still working on that very necessary kind of logo art. The iTunes is still being very picky about that. So I'm working with someone right now to create an icon image, because I could just submit anything, but it's very hard to change it once you put it in there. So I'm trying to create something that I can use as the logo for the show as well. So bear with me for a couple more days, but we should be up pretty soon though. It's all hanging on some art. That's all it's hanging on right now.
Yes, and also, but meanwhile, it's on Panzer Crush.
It is on Panzer Crush.
It's where we are currently being hosted, where you guys can hear.
Yes, and I'm working on some other outlets as well right now too. I don't want to go too vague into them, because when I say, last time I said, like, oh yeah, we're going to be on iTunes soon. Yeah, it's been already a couple of months, so I don't want to give people too much hope right now. And I'm not saying I'm taking it away, but I just don't want to get everybody's hopes up right now. So it's being worked on, believe me, and right now it's just a matter of artwork. So iTunes should be up pretty soon.
Right.
So
right. And where are we going to hunt you down virtually online?
You can find me on therealmcast.com, where I am the co-editor there, and I do a lot of I do a few podcasts. I do the Take Two podcast with George Cadero, the editor-in-chief over there. That's our weekly news recap site. I also do what we call the regular show, and that's kind of where we just sit around and just chat, kind of like we do here. We also have I also make appearances on our other shows, the Rundown Arrow, and I will be on the upcoming Rundown Flash, where we'll be recapping Flash, the new Flash TV show weekly. And we also have the Comics Unchained, which I make appearances on there too, run by my buddy Sergio Sanchez in Indiana. So you can find us there. And then, Jessica, where can they find more of your work?
Actually, before I answer that, I wanted to know, because we had briefly spoken about, oh my goodness, not Zack Snyder, although his take on Godzilla would be interesting. sorry, that was a completely side rant. That was not the Tourette's moment. But I was actually going to say, on your podcast, have you already spoken about the title of the new Man of Steel film? Because it would be very interesting to hear the musings and rants of the scholar known as Christine.
Oh, we did. That's going to be our bonus holiday, our bonus Memorial Day episode that should be going up either as you hear this, either tonight or by Monday. So we did a back-to-back episode because there was just so much news. We couldn't contain it all in one episode. So you will hear it by the end of this weekend, though. So go give that a look, or listen to it, if you will. We talk a lot. We touch upon the Star Wars news and a couple of other really interesting things. So, but just they kind of killed my anticipation for Batman and Superman with that terrible title. My God, is it bad?
A friend actually pointed out if it was a video game title, nobody would have given a crap. But since it's not a video game title, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, where to find me? I'm Jessica, the comic book girl, all one word. Like the comic book girl is all one word on Facebook. But please inbox me. I have now learned to check my other folder. I apologize to those in the past. And just say, hey, I heard you here, or I met you there, because I meet, not a large number of people, but I meet enough people, and I'm always afraid I may have forgotten you where we've met, but I'm pretty good at remembering faces and names. So just be like, oh, I heard you with Chris, on the Kaiju Kingdom podcast, and I will accept your Facebook friend request. And also, I am thecomicbookgirl.com and also thegirlandgeek.com. I've also been kind of, I would say, guest writing almost on actually the Realmcast. And we'll see. You guys can let me know how I'm doing. Is it good opinion, or is it like, this is feminine opinion?
You've been airing an air of class to that site. I'll say that.
Have I been? I felt like some people private messaged me about my Gwen Stacy Mary Jane post for the Amazing Spider-Man 2. And so, I also write for them on there. And from all those sites and Facebook, it'll lead you to my Twitter and all the various other places. I am hopefully a less annoying version of Justin Bieber according to Social Network. So I'm everywhere, but hopefully in a much more classy fashion.
Well, all right. Well, that will do it for us for this week. Thanks for hanging out for this episode. We know we got a little long-winded, but again, we had a lot to talk about. Join us next time when we'll be talking about some toys, and we got hopefully a couple of guests lined up for you guys with some interesting things to talk about. All right, so for myself and
Jessica Sang.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.